Welcome to this week's video. Basically it's going to be the start of my 2024 little mini project, I guess. My first steps into trail photography. I've always enjoyed being out and about in nature, lovely dawns, dusks, cold of winter, and looking at nature. But in real time I generally like to go out there and experience it in the raw, if you like. But I've always liked to see the use of trail cams. I've got a couple of people that I feature on my channel. UK Deer, Nature and Wildlife, who uses trail cams amazingly, and another guy called Craig who has a channel called Deer Oh Deer, and again he uses trail cams to great effect, and I just thought it would be something for me to really try and get into. Both of those channels do amazing footage for the trail cams, and I must admit I'm certainly not going to try and match the reviews that they do. They're very, very professional, but for me it's just really a bit of my experience in using these trail cams. I've always wanted to have one of these trail cams, but we've never been brave enough to buy one. But Denise, just before Christmas, got in contact with Craig and had a little chat with him about where she thought I would most likely to use it, and therefore, yeah, she went off and bought me one for Christmas. So if you've followed my channel over the last couple of years, I really do like videoing of just outside this wood. I tend to video the roe deer just as they enter into the woods or as they come out from the woods, but I've never really done a massive amount or had a massive amount of success in the woods here. The way I like to think about using this particular tool is to try and get some information about their movements.
So one of the first things I need to consider was positioning, and I felt that this slight clearing here with 2 or 3 different routes in and out that looked to be well used, and there's just a little bit of water here, I think they were just going to be absolutely ideal. And I had it here for about 3 to 4 weeks, and this family of muntjacs were regular visitors, but I only saw their offspring just the once and very fleetingly. And a big bonus here was seeing this fallow deer buck. Looks as if he's just lost his antlers, fortunately, because I think he would have probably bashed the camera if he had them. But looking at his rump, normally it's nice and white, so I guess this is a melalistic fallow. One of my failures was in the attempt to try and hold the wildlife in front of the camera. I decided to put some feed out, a mixture of grains and nuts, and I certainly did attract the wildlife. Hours upon hours of footage of pheasants and squirrels and birds, so much so that it filled up my SD card within about a day and a half, so I decided to change tack on that. So the idea of using a feed sort of worked, but maybe not nuts and seeds. So I decided to change over to sort of cat food or dog food and sprinkle that in front of the camera. It appeared as if this fox regularly came down to the water's edge and took a little bit of interest in the feed. I realised I was missing the fox quite a bit coming in and out, so I moved the camera subtly away from the water's edge and managed to catch him more often manoeuvring in and out of the clearing. So after about 4 weeks I decided to move the camera, see if I could find out any other additional information, and managed to get this badger. But this was a second failure really on my part. the positioning was fine. I wanted to be in this path, which looks as if it was well used, but I just didn't appreciate the impact that this foliage was right in front of the camera was going to have at night. In the daytime it wasn't that obvious, but at night it really picks up. The light really just picks it up. So that's what I wanted, was the roe deer, and I can see a muntjac on the left hand side moving up and down the path. So I was happy with the position, but I just needed to do a little bit of clearing. So I'm quite pleased. It's nice and clear in front of the camera now, and this, just a handful of cat biscuits just made sure that the fox here just hung around long enough for us to get a really good view.
So the discussion Craig had with Denise after asking a few little details sort of centred down on a couple of different cameras, and what he recommended was one that was solar panelled but also had a backup, because I'm going to be primarily in the woods, having that safety, if you like, of some internal batteries that would trip in just as the solar panel internal battery becomes a little bit depleted. It was, I think, quite important. So the fiddly thing with this particular camera is the SD card, and I must admit Craig did mention the fact that that was going to be a bit of a challenge with that, so I've decided not even to get into the changing of them in the field. So what I tend to do is to use my iPad. The big advantage of that is I can look to see what's on there and copy off what I particularly want, but also for the time that I'm actually looking at the filming, looking at the footage, it's charging. So you can see here it's giving just a little bit of a boost, which just helps with the internal solar panel battery. The amount of time I've been with the camera out, I've had one set of batteries in there, and I think when I checked they're down to about 25% the last time I looked. So another way of connecting to it is via your phone. It's really useful. You can have a look to see when you've got it set up in sort of the setup mode, to see whether you've got it in the correct position that you want. So my goal for this little project is to keep you updated on how I get on the learning curve of using this trail cam. So hopefully I'm going to put a little update every so often with the successes, hopefully, but maybe with the failures, anything that I've learnt in using this trail cam. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and hopefully you enjoy this little project of mine, and I look forward for you to join me in next week's video.